Hello, Gerry Ludlow here. Today's painting is of a cornfield near me. The picture was taken this summer, and I will show you how to paint the scene from start to finish, and I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing throughout. It needs minimal drawing, just a few guidelines, and the round hay bales, so it's a good one if you don't like drawing too much. It's a nice bright scene with lots of shadows from the bales, and the sky is sunny with a few clouds. I'm using a 4B pencil and the paper is Saunders Waterford 140 pound rough. Just a few lines I'm putting in that to give me a guide to the perspective when I come to paint it. It was a really hot day, and I remember that there was a lot of midges in the air. I think probably because all the fields around there were being cut, and there just seemed to be so many of them. That's the drawing completed, and now working on the sky. Now with a big sky like this, I'm going to be putting some water on with a spray before I start, just to make some of the areas moist. Otherwise the paint dries in too fast. And this is a mixture of cobalt blue and French ultramarine. Now, if you use a lot of ultramarine, you'll find that when it dries out, it has a slightly crazed effect, or glazed, crazed effect, not glazed effect. Putting on the first wash now, and a very, very watery Payne's grey. A lot of water. Putting some more on there now. Don't forget what I always say, that it's going to dry out much lighter. And if it looks right when you first put it on, it's wrong because it's going to be too light. So you just have to get the balance. Don't want the blue to run too much into the clouds. Don't want it to look like it's going to rain. I want this painting to look extremely warm. And then at the horizon line, just a little bit more blue, which is going to be covered with some distant hills and some trees mainly. Letting that dry a little bit. While that's drying, on with the foreground, which is going to be raw sienna. Once again, nice watery coat. Don't mind going over the hay bales, just leaving some white areas here and there randomly as we go. I'm going to be painting over this again a few times. I want everything to run in that direction, so that's why I'm brushing in that direction. That's the way the lines of the fields go. Just using regular pointed brushes. Use the mop for the blue, medium mop. And now with a smaller brush I'm going to be putting in some of the shadow in the cloud. Looks a bit dark, but it will dry lighter. And I'm going to be putting a little bit of spatter, which is just hitting the brush against the other brushes, and it's going to look quite artistic, and it's just going to remind me of all the flying things that were there when I was there. Just getting some colours ready for some of the future washes while it dries a bit. I do fast forward when I dry it off with the hairdryer, so you don't have to listen to that. These are the distant hills, put in quickly with Payne's grey and a little lavender. And this is the field where the corn's all been cut, leaving these short stalks in lines where the harvester went along. I'm just putting in some really warm colours in the immediate foreground, which is burnt sienna and a little water, just to take the edge off it. Don't want hard edges there. Working on these round bales. This is just watery raw sienna. Doing the lower part, which would be more in shadow. You'll see my placement of these bales to be just where the tree line's going to be, which will really show them off when the dark colours go in. Really make the painting glow. That's something that you need to plan before you start the painting, is things like that. And you'll see when I start to put the line of trees in, it just catches the top of these, and that's dark against light. And the distant bales as well. I'm going to be making this tree line quite dark, so I'm going to be doing a few washes. The darker it gets, the more it will show off these fields in front. Just some random shapes. Trying to make sure I haven't got two the same. I'm going to be giving these distant trees a few washes. Get it really dark. Which will really bring that cornfield to life. Make it really glow. You'll see the way I'm applying really thick paint to the existing wet paint. You have to go thicker with your paint as you go, and then you get to the point where you've just got to leave it to dry and then go over the top again. But you do get a little bit of time to add some darker colour, and it does kind of merge in. It doesn't always look that good when you first put it on. This is the second wash going on the fields, and I'm going to be using the same colour as the first coat, which is raw sienna, a little bit of burnt sienna, and bringing them brush strokes in at the angle that the field runs at, the furrows on the field. In the photograph, when you look at the field, so there's the lines that are been put in there by the combine harvester and the tractors. A little bit wet to wet here with the second wash, and that is burnt sienna. The trees are still a little bit wet. It's just bleeding in a little bit there at the back. I may try something just to take that off a little bit. Popping in some shapes. All very abstract, these fields. Just taking out this part where the green's bleeding through into the raw sienna. Now this is a palette knife with a sharp tip to it that I'm using for the foreground, and I've just let it dry enough so that I can do these marks in the wet paint and the paint doesn't flood back in. And this is just to give the impression of stalks sticking out from the ground. So that's why I've done some dark areas there so you can see it better. So when I scratch through, you can see the raw sienna coming through. I've done the darker areas with raw umber. I've done quite a lot there. Quite often I only do a few, but I really want to emphasise the amount of stalks that were left. Just using a small nylon brush, not particularly expensive one. Still keeps a nice point. And I'm now putting in the shadows on these rolls of hay. Making a feature of these closer ones. I must admit I did prefer when I used to paint the bales of hay. I thought they were a little bit more attractive than these rolls of hay, but that's what the farmers use now. I suppose it's more efficient to have them in rolls now and easier to move them around. Same thing again with this distant bale of hay. Putting the darks in. And doing a broken line leading from it where the sun's coming from the right, the shadows are going to the left. Nice long shadows, sun's nice and low. When you're starting to bring this painting to life now. Putting in some darks here with more raw umber and burnt sienna. Still using the same brush to do the smaller bales in the distance. Keeps a nice point, so you can do quite small works with it. Just decided to add another one to the right hand side there to keep your eye in the picture, in the painting. Stop it going off at the side there. Quite a quick painting today, but very effective, very summery. You can feel the warmth through the colours and the sky. Now making this distant trees even darker, which will bring the bales further forward. Just carefully going around these bales at the back there. Make sure I don't cover them up. It's all part of the overall effect. Now this brush I'm using now is a rigger brush. It's a very fine tip on it and used for doing the intricate part of a painting. As the name suggests, the idea was for use it for rigging on ships, but it's good for doing these fine lines on things like these round bales of hay. Just doing some shadows on these distant bales. It was a bit plain there on the left hand side field there, just to put a bit of colour. And now making these shadows a bit darker. Making the darks darker makes the lights lighter, and that's true. Using some really dark paint now. This is neutral tint. Which I like to use near the ends of my paintings, putting some of the darker lines in, some of the darker marks. Good fun this painting, enjoyed it, hope you enjoyed it too. Just taking the masking tape off to reveal the finished piece. As you can see, it's a real feeling of warmth in what is quite a simple, quick painting. Reminds me of the day when I was standing at the side of the fields back in the summer fields. There's the finished artwork. Don't forget to visit my site, gerryludlowart.com. See you again soon. Bye.